Um, I want to tell you a story. I think you know the stories where you don't tell anyone because you don't look good in them. You feel a little bit like shameful for the story. I want to tell you one of those stories. So this is actually the first time I think I've told anyone this story. So like if you're going to tell it, you might as well do it like to a big group of people. But it's a story about being thirsty, I guess. That's really what it's about. I was about 9 years ago, me and Emma just got married and we went on holiday to Mallorca. And I'm one of those people who, when I see a mountain, I feel like that's God's way of putting a challenge in front of me. Like, it's not just there, it's like it's calling me out. It wants me to attack it. Like the mountain is a challenge for a battle. Everyone I see, I can't help but have something inside me, which is like, I need to defeat you. And so we were on holiday in Mallorca in the middle of the summer, and as the plane landed, I looked out the window and I saw these mountains, and I was like, I need to destroy one of you. Like this is the only thing I want to do on my holiday is to defeat this mountain. And so I roped in my brother-in-law, who was about 17 years old at the time, and I was like, Joel, we are going to go on. We're going to take one of those mountains. It's going to be epic. And so I kind of planned it all out in about 30 seconds. And we decided we were going to go and park at a monastery, and then you had to kind of climb a small mountain and get over the side so you can get up to the bigger ones. And we took a bottle of water each, like 2 liters in our bag, and it was really hard going. Like it was like 37, 38 degrees. It was hot, it was sweaty, it was sticky. There was no one else out or around because it was too hot to be out walking, let alone climbing mountains. And we were really exposed as well, so we were getting through our water really, really fast. And we got to this point climbing up where they put like a ladder in a cliff face. So you had to climb a ladder up a cliff. And I'm scared of heights as well, which is maybe why I like climbing mountains. It's a part of me like defeating my own fears. And so we climbed up this ladder, and I just knew there's no way I could go back down that ladder afterwards as well. And after half a day of pretty hard climbing, we get to the top of this mountain, and it's just beautiful. It's gorgeous. Looking out across the island, it's everything we hoped it would be. And we had some lunch, and we finished the last of our water. And we thought, okay, what do we do now? You know, it's too hot to be walking without water. We really do need some water to get back. So I checked the map, and I found an alternative route back. So we could go down the back of the mountain. It was twice as long, but it looked steady. And there was loads of streams along the way. So I had this idea, like we could just have this nice soft walk back, fill up our bottles in the streams on the way, and then we would be back home by 6 o'clock. We'd left at like 6 a.m. in the morning. It was already about 2 in the afternoon. So I just thought this would be really nice and easy. What actually happened, what it actually turned out is that nice smooth walk back was a boulder field. These boulders are like 6 foot high, and you had to climb one to get to the next, to get to the next, to get to the next. So what was supposed to be about half a mile took us 4 hours, completely exposed. But we kept pushing because I was like, we need to get to the river because we got no water and we're thirsty. And we finally get to the end of the boulder field and get to the river, and it's completely dried up and there's no water. And I lost all of my energy. I was so thirsty. My head started to get this crazy headache. I could walk for about 1 minute, and I had to stop and pause, and then 1 minute and stop and pause. And I've got like my 17-year-old brother-in-law, so I'm like, I need to look like the man here. I need to look good, and I'm suffering. And have you ever got so thirsty and so hot that you can't even think straight anymore? Your brain doesn't operate. I couldn't think, but I didn't know what to do. I was literally lost on a mountain in Spain in the heat, and I started to get scared. I thought, we're going the wrong way. This is still so far to get back home. What are we going to do? And I didn't want Joel to know that I was scared as well, so I just tried my best to keep going and keep going and keep going. And hours went past, and we were just still moving, a little bit at a time, pause, a little bit at a time, pause. And we found this Land Rover parked in the middle of nowhere. And we thought, this is it. We're saved. And so we get to this Land Rover, and there's no one around. So we're now shouting, we're calling out, we're like, who's here? Who can help us? And there's just no one. And we wait and we wait and we wait and no one turns up. And I don't know how long that Land Rover had been there. Maybe they parked it and gone away for a few days. I don't know why it was even there, but we found this Land Rover. And then I noticed in the back of the Land Rover was a bottle of water. And I thought, wow, this is it. This is our water. But then I suddenly realized we'd have to break into someone else's car to get the water. Like, what do you do in that situation? What would you do in that situation? You're so thirsty, you're scared, you're lost, and there's water there, but you know that it's a crime to take it. And you know that you've got a witness who is also like a pastor's kid, who will probably tell on you for whatever you do. What would you do? So I was like, don't tell anyone. And I've not told anyone this. I picked up a rock and I smashed the window. And I took this bottle of water. I was so desperate. I took this bottle of water and I thought, this is going to save our lives. And I went and I drank it. And there was this moment of realization when I discovered that the water was stale and old. Been there for, I don't know how long it had been there, but it just made me sick. It made me even worse. And I walked away from this car, tired, lost, sick, and just feeling guilt and shame, right? And I want to read to you a passage from James. And as I've been reading this passage this week, I've been chewing over this again and again and again. And I'm really praying and asking God, what do you want us to say today? And I think that what James is talking about is this same thing. You see, I think that a lot of us, we actually walk through life just thirsty. Just really thirsty for stuff. Thirsty for love. Thirsty for acceptance. Thirsty for appreciation. Thirsty for something. And it might well be that you're even here and the journey that you took in life didn't quite go as you expected. The road was harder. What you thought might sustain you didn't. And you come and you're thirsty and it's okay to be thirsty. But then you're finding that you're drinking water that's only making you feel sick. It's only making you feel ashamed. It's only making you feel worse. And James is writing to a church who are probably guilty of looking for things in the wrong places. You know, they're thirsty and they want to be filled. And he's looking at them and saying, I think that you're going about this all wrong and it's only going to lead to damage and frustration. So if you've got your Bible, please turn to James chapter 2. If you've got the Soul City app, all of the notes are in there as well. You can just click on sermons and go on notes, and you can follow along in there as well. But we're going to just start by reading this passage, James chapter 2, verse 1. And he says, my brothers and sisters. A little clue in James, if he ever says my brothers and sisters, that's like the sweet bit before he's going to say something really, really challenging. He says, my brothers and sisters. We used to call this a poo sandwich. Anyone ever? Yeah, it doesn't matter. My brothers and sisters, believers in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ, must not show favoritism. You must not show favoritism. Favoritism is the practice of giving unfair or preferential treatment to one person or a group of people. We do this in all kinds of different ways. You could show favoritism due to age. You know, older people, they're out of touch, they don't know nothing. Younger people haven't lived long enough, they don't know anything, and you can prefer people due to their age. You can prefer people due to their appearance. You know, if you're beautiful, then you're welcome. If you're not, then life's going to be hard for you. Like we could do that. It might be that you show preference to people based on their achievements. You know, if you're successful, we'll just gush over you. You're amazing. But if you're not, then we don't really have as much time for you. You can show it due to their ancestry, you know, their heritage, their skin color, their background, their culture. We show preference to people for all these kinds of reasons. Or one of the ones that I think is the most common is we show preference to people based on their affluence, how much money they earn. And this is really what James is talking about. He says, my brothers and sisters, believers in our glorious Lord Jesus, you must not show favoritism. For example, suppose someone comes into your meeting dressed in fancy clothes and expensive jewelry, and another one comes in who's poor and dressed in dirty clothes. If you give special attention and a good seat to the rich person, but you say to the poor one, You can stand over there or else sit on the floor. Well, doesn't this discrimination show that your judgments are guided by evil motives? What he's saying is don't withhold or give love to people based on what's external. Don't accept or reject people based on their age, their appearance, their color, their affluence, their status, their money, based on stuff which you just see. You know, we live in a world, they say that we make decisions about people in 8 seconds. That's how long it takes for you to decide everything that you think you want to know about someone. We just look, and we make these snap judgments about people. He's saying, don't do that. Fight against the pull inside your heart to surround yourself with people who are just like you. That's wrong. We need to stop doing that. He says you must not show favoritism. And maybe you're here and you're like, you know what, I don't do that. That's not me. I'm not like that. I think it is. I think you do. I think we all do. And I think we need to wake up and recognize this. Like, think about it like this. Imagine you're sitting there and in walked will.i.am and sat on the seat next to you. And then on the seat on the other side, in walks Simon Cowell, say. Do you think you would be as focused on the worship? Do you think you'd be as focused on the talk? Do you think you'd be as focused on God?
No.
I don't think you would. I think you'd still worship. I think your worship would get louder. And you'd start to have all these little skills that would suddenly come in. Because you'd be sitting there thinking, this is my moment. You know, if I can get Simon Cowell to hear me right now, amazing grace. And he'd be like, oh, Ben, you are the one that I have been looking for. How sweet the sound. That's what you do. You'd be like, yes, he's noticed me. Because you know, if Simon Cowell notices you, it'll change your life. It'll change everything. You know that he would bring money. He'd bring backup. He could change your story in an instant. So of course, you'd notice him. You'd have his focus. But let me ask you a second question. Imagine you're sitting there, will.i.am on one side, Simon Cowell on the other side. And then God just enters the front right here, visibly, tangibly, in all of his glory, in all of his majesty. It's like God just somehow comes into the cinema and he's just there, radiant, bright, just right in our presence. Do you think you would still be paying attention to Simon Cowell if God was here? You wouldn't. You'd be like, oh God, just be like, wow, like you and me and you and me, and this is amazing, and like God is like right here, I can see him. This is phenomenal. You would be blown away. But what happens is we take our eyes off God and we focus on people around us. And we start putting people in categories. We start treating people in ways that we think they can treat us. We get thirsty for what they can do for us, for what they can give to us, for the acceptance that we feel that we need, that happiness that we're longing for. And we start to put people in all of these kind of systems and boxes. And James is saying, don't do that. Everywhere you go in life, people do that. Everywhere you go, people will judge and they will value you and they will tell you what you're worth and what you're not worth. And he's saying the church should be the one place where anybody can walk in the door and be treated entirely equally. Yeah. Don't do that. And he says this is actually really, really serious. And he goes on to explain why he thinks this is so serious. He says in verse 5, listen to me, dear brothers and sisters. Warning, he said brothers and sisters. He's about to get real again. Hasn't God chosen the poor in this world to be rich in faith? Aren't they the ones who will inherit the kingdom he promised to those who love him? But you dishonor the poor. Isn't it the rich who oppress you and drag you into court? Aren't they the ones who slander Jesus, whose noble name you bear? What he's really saying, I think, in this passage is two things. He's saying there's two reasons why this is so serious, why this is so bad. Well, we have to really take this in a serious way. He says the first is it's anti-gospel. It's anti-gospel. Think about it. When you were at school, I don't know how this worked in your playground, if you played football, but what would happen in my playground is we'd get all the boys together, and some of the girls as well, and we would choose the two greatest footballers among us. And I was never one of those. But they would be the two captains. And we'd be like, okay, you, Leo, and you, Ronaldo, you are the two. And then what they would then do is they'd start to pick who they thought were the best players so that their team would win. And then there'd always be that awkward moment at the end where it's like there's one kid left and they're arguing about who has to have that kid on their team. But when God picks his team, he doesn't do it like this at all. God doesn't pull together the best players. God doesn't come and say, I want all the people who are qualified. I want all the people who are educated. I want all the people who are spiritual. He just pulls people together, not so that the team is good, so that he looks good. God comes and he's the star player on the team. He doesn't need a team of people who are going to be awesome because he is so awesome. It's not in your strength that God will move. It's in your weakness. Of course you're going to mess up. Of course you're going to trip up. Of course things are going to go wrong because it's not about your ability. It's about God. Yeah. And so when we start to judge people about what we think is awesomeness, what we're actually doing is we're creating a culture of our own awesomeness, of our own value systems, and we're denying the very gospel that says it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter how far away you feel like you've been. You are welcome. It's not about earning salvation. God comes and he says, I'm giving it to you. I have done everything that you need.
Come on, man.
You can just take it as a gift. Yeah. So when we show favorites, we're acting anti-gospel.
Wow.
Jesus says, this is how you know people are my followers. They show love to one another. They welcome one another. They accept. This is what it means to be a Christian. James is saying, this isn't even us. He's literally saying, do you even know Jesus when you do this? Because that same grace that saved you is the grace that we can then show other people. He says it's anti-gospel. The second thing he says is it's illogical. This makes absolutely no sense at all. Why are you so focused on Simon Cowell? Like he's going to be the key person in your life if you know the King of Kings who holds all the keys.
Wow.
Why are you focused on people when you know God? Who can open any door, regardless of your skill, regardless of your situation. He can lead you to any room, to any situation. He can make a way in anywhere. It doesn't matter what battle you face. Simon Cowell can't help you. Jesus can. He says it's illogical that we would have someone walk in and we would then celebrate them thinking, oh, this is the person who's going to be a big giver, maybe. They'll give us all of their money and then we can have everything that we want of luxury as a church. It's like it makes no sense. God's the biggest giver of them all. He gives you everything that you need and more. He gives you far beyond what you deserve. Why are we looking to people to fulfill what only God's going to fulfill in our lives?
Good, man.
Why are we so thirsty? It's illogical. And I think it actually reveals a deeper problem within each of us. Now, Brené Brown, she says this. If I feel good about my parenting, I've got no interest in judging other people's choices. If I feel good about my body, I don't go around making fun about people's weight or appearance. We're hard on each other because we're using each other as a launching pad of our own perceived deficiency.
Wow.
The problem is we're insecure. The problem is we're thirsty. The problem is the road was hard. And we feel like we need some stuff. And so what we do is we rate people, we judge people, we welcome people, and we push people away based on our insecurities and our needs and our perceived appearance of ourselves. If I'm with these people that look good, then I think that maybe I look good. If I'm with these people who are funny, then they bring me joy. They make me laugh. And that person who's maybe not so good looking, not so funny, not so affluent, maybe I don't really need them so much in my life because they feel like they want to take something from me. And we judge people based on our interior perceived understanding of ourselves. And it's wrong, it's broken, it's illogical. I think that favoritism, if we're honest, it reveals a deep rot in the heart of our souls. It reveals that there's something not quite right with us. And I don't want to attack you for this too much because all of us are like this. All of us do this. And then the problem isn't like we need to become perfect, because we'll never become perfect. You're not going to achieve the life that you need by your own strength. Like, that's not the point. The point is that we change our focus. That we stop looking so much at the people around us, and we start looking more on God and fix our eyes on him. And we say, do you know, like Josh said earlier, you know what? I'm coming to you first, because I recognize that my battles that I need to fight are going to come from your strength, not from my strength, not from their strengths, not from these situations. I come to you first. And you put everything else in perspective.
Good.
There's a story in John chapter 4, I think it is, when Jesus meets this woman at a well. And he turns around to her and he says, you're thirsty. And he calls it out. And he's saying, you know, you're not just thirsty for water. You seem to be like thirsty for guys. You've got not just one relationship, but another relationship and another relationship. And you're going from one to another all the time. And it's like you're looking for something. You need something. You're hungry for something. And you're looking for it in all the wrong places. And that water that you're drinking is only going to make you sick. And he then turns around to her and he says, do you want water that is everlasting, that is eternal, that will never run dry, that will fulfill you in every moment, in every situation? The problem isn't the thirst. The problem is where we go to fill that thirst. Every thirst, every desire that you have in your life, that's not the problem. The problem is you're going to the wrong source to be fulfilled. He says to this woman, the thirst isn't what's wrong with you. You're disconnected from your community. You need people in your life. The problem is you're looking for them to fulfill what only I can give you. That you're turning up in church and you're looking for us to fulfill what only God is going to fit in your life. You need to change the source. And when you get your source from God, then you recognize that the people you're surrounded with, they're not your source. They're your target. You know, God fills you so that you can then pour it out on other people. You don't come here looking for what you're going to get, looking for what you're going to receive from us. You look for that from God. You come here and you recognize that God has made you in community so that you can serve, so that you can bless, so that you can love, so that you can give, so that you can overflow. He says to this woman that there is water which bubbles up inside of you like a well. It overflows. It goes further. It goes beyond. That's what God wants us to have. He says, fix your eyes on me. I will give you what you need. You know, I walked away from that car that day, sick, tired, lost, hungry, embarrassed with my brother-in-law. And we got about another half a mile, and there was a little monk's hut. And in it, we found a note, and it said, to everyone who is weary, here is water to refresh you. And there was a full tank of cold, beautiful, refreshing water. I think that guy saved our lives. And we drank. And we filled our bottles. And it sustained us and it gave us life. And we were able to move on again. Because we found the water that we were supposed to be drinking. We found the water that would truly sustain us. We found the water that filled us in the way that we needed to be filled. Where is your source? I know you're thirsty. We're all thirsty. We were created to be thirsty. Where are you drinking? What is the well that you're going to? Are you judging people around you? You're trying to bring the right people around you because you need that from them? Are you going after situation hoping that they're going to bring you what you need? I want to be the kind of person who's so focused on God, who's so in love with Jesus, that when I come, when I turn up, I don't need anything from you guys because I've received everything that I need already. So I'm here to overflow. When I'm in my work, I'm there to overflow. When I'm in my school, I'm there to overflow. When I'm in my house, I'm there to overflow. That is who I want to be. I'm not there. I want to be there. Can we just all stand on our feet? I want to just give you a moment to pause and reflect. Where are you drinking from? Where are you looking to? Do you do this? Do you show favorites? Do you judge people based on their money, on their skin color, on their gender, on their success? Where is it that you're drawing boxes where God's called you to tear them down? Where are you looking for people to fulfill something that isn't actually theirs to fulfill? Like, don't hear me wrong, God has created you for community. You need to be around people. But He's not created you to make community your God. He is the only one who can do that. When you have your focus right on Him, everything else falls into its place. What I want to do is I want to give you a moment to just close your eyes. And to just take your eyes off everyone else around you. And to focus your heart, focus your spirit on Jesus. And wherever you feel thirsty, why don't you just bring that to Him? The thirst isn't the problem. Bring that to Jesus. And just let His water, His pure, His cool water, sustain you. Psalm 23 says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall have no wants, because I receive them from the Lord, who fills me." Let's just pause here for a moment. God, I want to pray that you will pour your love into us in such a radical way. That we don't need to search for you anywhere else except in you. Lord, I'm sorry when I've been thirsty and that's caused me to create friction and tension and distinctions. God, we want to be so in love with you that everyone who walks into this place, they know that they're welcome, they know that they're appreciated, they know that they're loved, they know that they can belong here. God, we want this to be a church where it doesn't matter what you've done, it doesn't matter who you think you are, that you come and you are welcome and you are loved. That everyone can walk in this door. That we could sit next to our worst enemy know that we are both equally loved and equally welcome. Lord, the walls that we built in our lives, we just pray you'll tear those down. And that you'll create a community here that goes beyond race, it goes beyond affluence, it goes beyond culture, it goes beyond gender, it goes beyond color, it goes beyond every distinction that we put in our lives, that you will create a family who share each other's burdens, welcome and love each other. Amen. I want to just finish by, asking you a question. I think that the way that this works, the way that we're able to do this, isn't just by trying hard. It's when we know Jesus. That's when things change. When we know Jesus is our source, when we know Him as our provider, when we get the living water, the eternal water that He talks about, that's when it changes all of our relationships around us. And maybe you're here and you look around you and you're like, I recognize this in me. I know that I do this. I know that I'm looking to people to fulfill this stuff. And if you're here and you've never known Jesus, I want to say that you can. I'm going to tell you that you can make a decision, even right now in church, to say, I'm gonna change. I want to know Him. I want to know what this living water is all about. The Bible tells us that we're distanced from God, not because of God, but because of ourselves. Because we turn away from him and we look for him in all the wrong places. And we look for this fulfillment and it doesn't fulfill us. And we try a different thing one after another. And the Bible tells us that God sent his Son to make a way so that we could know God. We could know forgiveness. We could know love. We could know intimacy. That Jesus is like, he built the bridge between us. And that we can have that relationship with our God that's missing. In Romans 10:10 it says all you need to do is believe in your heart and speak with your mouth and you're saved. And what he's saying is, it's not that you get everything straight away, but you can take one step today. One act of faith, which will change everything. I need to tell you right now that Simon Cowell will not change your life, but Jesus will. He will change everything that comes from that moment forward. And I'm going to ask everyone to close their eyes, and I just want you to pause and ask yourself this deep question. Do I know Jesus? And do I want to? I'm going to count to 3, and if you want to say today, I want to make a decision that's going to change everything. I want to know this Jesus. I want to pray a prayer that's going to ask him to come and meet me. I want to say I'm sorry for all the times I've searched everywhere else, and I want my life to be different from this point on. I'll just count to 3, and I'm just going to ask you to quickly raise your hand so that I can pray with you. I just want to give you that moment in this service. So 1, 2, 3. If you want to make a decision today and just say, today I want to choose to follow Jesus. Wherever you are, just raise your hand with me.